What's good, everybody? It's Alex Kamuya here, and we're back with episode 76 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. And I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today?
Doing really good, bro. I think that was a good episode we just finished recording. I wanted to shout that out first, but I'm doing good personally because I just got all of my items that I needed to start creating new content. So everybody be on the lookout. I guess it'll probably already be coming out this week, but I'm gonna start putting out some new content on my Instagram page and just in general. So I've been ordering stuff all the past couple of weeks, and I think everything's finally came in. I'm gonna start getting new content out, so I'm excited for that. Other than that, really just keeping my head down, continuously grinding on my other businesses until they start really getting more traction before I start going too much into them. But that's it. That's it for me. What about you?
I don't think I have too much going on right now, other than what we talked about last week. I think there's a lot of opportunity right now with social media and that kind of stuff for branding. So I'm really trying to do a lot of that kind of stuff in terms of creating more content. So I've been putting a lot of video content out there because I think that gets the best kind of engagement. So getting on TikTok and those kind of things because there's so much organic capability on TikTok. So it's a lot of stuff trying to juggle right now with different businesses and then branding and all these kind of things.
It's like one thing to build the business, but a second thing to advertise it.
Yeah, so it's because you in the beginning you just kind of wear all the hats, so you just got to keep grinding, keep pushing it. Especially this YouTube stuff I'm putting out. It's a lot of effort, a lot of work trying to put out content. So but my goal is always to add value, bring value to every piece of content that I put out. I'm really a perfectionist, so it makes it really hard for me to put out content on a consistent basis because if I don't see it as something that's number one, extremely valuable, and number two, high quality, it's gonna be hard pressed to get put out. I'd rather put nothing out almost. So, which a lot of people will differ on that opinion in terms of content creation, but that's just my take on it. I think so another thing that I wanted to talk about too before we got into the episode was I'm doing a webinar next week on Friday of how to acquire your first flip or rental property. So it's a free webinar. Y'all could definitely check it out. I'll put the link in the description for y'all to check it out. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, the day it comes out, which is on the 18th, I think, then the webinar will be on the 19th on Friday night at, I think, 8 p.m. Eastern. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to be talking a lot about, some of the strategies that, I use for finding properties and those kind of things. So check that out. Link will be in the description and you can register for the webinar there. But other than that, man, I think, business has been going good. So I'm really just trying to stay focused on that. I got to fire an employee today. But what's new? She gave me the middle finger. So it was kind of interesting. I was like, wow, okay. What? Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. I'm gonna just leave it. I don't want to get into it, but oh yeah, one thing too that I did want to mention is that I'm really getting real bullish on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin specifically. I've been doing a lot of research, reading a lot about it after our episode with Justin, and I talked to him a lot about it too. Been talking to a lot of different people. And man, it's just this is not financial advice or investment advice, but me personally, I'm considering transferring a majority of my savings into Bitcoin because essentially you're trading in a depreciating asset like cash for an appreciating asset like Bitcoin. Now, not to say it can't go to zero and you can lose everything. So, obviously you should only invest what you can afford to lose. But I think I'm never afraid of a little risk. I think I got an appetite for risk. So for me, I could see Bitcoin honestly conservatively being at 100K by the end of the year. Conservatively, realistic.
Yes, he told us 300K.
Yeah, and I mean, because I just been seeing, there's a guy that's putting out what they call stock to flow models, which is essentially like, I'm not gonna get into it because it could get real complicated, but you got to go read about it. Just go search Bitcoin stock to flow modeling and Bitcoin mining and halving. So you pretty much the people that mine Bitcoin are rewarded with Bitcoin, and every 4 years that amount is decreased by half because there's only going to be 21.5 million Bitcoin in supply. So that means it's like, think about it like this: there's 300 million people in the United States, and there's 150 million houses. Let's just say, half of the people have a house in the United States, something like that, or like 2 people per household. If there was never any more houses ever built, let's just say 150 million was the cap. What does that mean? The prices of the houses are going to go extremely high because the demand is only going to increase. And that's where we're at with Bitcoin right now. It's like the demand is only going up and the supply is not going is going down. So at one point it's finite. 21.5 million is the cap. So that alone tells you kind of what it's looking like. Institutions are getting in. Tesla, MicroStrategy, Square, all these companies are getting in. So the floor of Bitcoin is getting raised. And to me, I think there's so much opportunity to own this is an appreciation, when it comes to real estate, I don't buy real estate for appreciation. The Bitcoin, that's a whole another ballgame. Bitcoin ain't giving you no dividends, ain't giving you no cash flow, straight up appreciation. So, I put in 1,500 yesterday. I might put in another 1,000 next week because it's just, that's how I see it's going right now. So
that's the Bitcoin Fitness talking to y'all right there. We had Bitcoin Vegan come on. I just thought of it. That's gonna be your name on IG now. Bitcoin Fitness.
I do have all the other stuff
that you care about.
I did that earlier this morning. All the other stuff, meaning the radio format, as far as like my commentary.
Okay, yeah, it's just
I'll sending that to you.
Opportunity right now, so
we can try it tomorrow if you want to
take advantage.
But
yeah, as far as the episode, we had a good episode
in this. Like gave out names and stuff.
This week, episode 76.
Yeah, we can.
With
it's gonna be
Dedric and Krystal Polite.
This recording was,
which is a really dope name.
I was
the name of the company is Be Polite Properties, and they kind of talked about how they came up with that name.
Yeah,
at the end of the episode, so that was pretty cool. But we got into a lot in this episode. It was very diverse. We talked a lot about
all right, let's do
business in relationships.
That's it for this episode of the Money
navigating that
podcast.
In terms
New
of like how does that actually
will be released every Thursday
because we don't get couples on
Spotify,
podcast.
YouTube.
It's only the third.
Just
time
search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today. And if you did, we'd appreciate it if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review.
Oh yeah, I'm tripping. Shout out.
You can also find out more info about us on Twitter at the Monopolizers or on Instagram at
that was a really. I always love that
content on there that'll keep you engaged. So check that out.
I'm a single.
Be sure to share those posts. But until then,
and it's important to be able to find someone that can, mesh well with how you want your life to go. So we got into a lot of that in terms of like how they met, how they got together, and then how they're managing their relationship and their business at the same time today, which is very interesting because it's like, I know a lot of our listeners are younger, so this is something you need to be listening to right now, especially if you want to get into entrepreneurship and business. You got to know how to pick these people that are going to mesh well with you because, picking the wrong spouse, that can be a very fatal mistake. So.
Yeah, no, I think that a lot of our listeners, whether they're married or not, can get a lot out of this because of the fact that you can see what it looks like for somebody to be in a business relationship. Like you are business partners with your spouse, but you're also like that's just your spouse in general. So now you get to see from different examples of what it looks like to run a business with your significant other. And I think that's just one dynamic that we've been able to see in different aspects from our different guests that we've had on a podcast. I think everybody runs it differently, but I see that one clear-cut thing is that communication piece. I think with that clear communication, that clear vision of like expectations of each other, that really helps out a lot for both parties. So I think, honestly, if anything, that should be something that our listeners can get a lot out of from this episode. But I really like how they just ran their entire business relationship all together, just based on that fact of just the clear-cut communication and clearly defined goals and visions for what they wanted their life to look like. So it was a great one for me too.
Yeah. So then let's get into it then.
How you doing, Dedric and Krystal?
Doing great.
Great, guys.
Yep, glad to have you. Like we were talking about before we even started the call, we've been coordinating this with your assistant for ever since October. And so it's really been a long time coming, really trying to make this happen. But we really wanted to get y'all on the podcast because I really like your story for both real estate and your relationship personally. Because I like how y'all are like a power couple. Y'all really work very well together and complement each other very well at the same time. So This episode is going to be more so relationships and real estate. That might even be the title of it. But I want to start getting into that. But before we do, I want to really talk about like both of you growing up personally. So like your personal upbringings before you got together. Like what was that like for y'all?
Yeah, we appreciate y'all having on. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. Grew up the oldest of three sons, single mom, Section 8 housing. Grew up in Roxbury. If anyone knows where New Edition is from, that's Roxbury neighborhood of Boston. Neighborhood was plagued by drugs and gangs, but I was blessed to go to a private school. I had a full academic scholarship to private high school. That kind of took me out of that environment. Ended up getting into an Ivy League college. Went to college, got a degree in sociology. Of course, I didn't use that degree. I went into sales after graduating from college. Again, got a full academic scholarship to college. But that really opened up a lot of doors for me. Went into corporate America, did what everybody says to do. Go to college, get good grades, get a job with benefits, work 40 years, retire, get a gold watch. I realized quickly that wasn't the route I wanted to take, and that didn't exist anymore. So I tried a bunch of things on the side. I've sold everything from vitamins to lotions to potions to insurance to everything. It wasn't until I met my wife, who was already a serial entrepreneur, that we kind of combined forces and really dove in entrepreneurship full steam ahead. So that's my background.
Mine is kind of similar, but not similar. So I also came from North Carolina. Came from North Carolina originally. Grew up in Boston. So my mom, I was the middle child of four. Moved to Massachusetts, I believe in like 88. So I moved there at a really, really young age. So I grew up there, went to high school, middle school, elementary, college, everything was in Massachusetts. Single parent household, just my mother. Went to public school, unlike him.
Yeah.
I went to Boston Public School, then went off to college. But from day one, I've always been a serial entrepreneur. Growing up, I wanted to be an attorney a majority of my life until I got into college. And I ended up, even me wanting to be an attorney, I still wanted to own my own law firm. And my goal was to own my own law firm and hire homeless people to work for me. Because that was a passion of mine, is working with the homeless. I went to college and ended up writing, producing, and directing a stage play. And that kind of just took where my vision and goals and kind of skewed them a little bit, where now it was more so entrepreneurship that I wanted to dive into, where I took that stage play on tour and I hit a lot of the major colleges and universities from Boston to Florida. And from there, I've always been very strategic with careers that I've taken, because I typically did not stay at any one longer than a year, maybe a year and a half tops. I came in to get what I needed to learn from that company, and then that would benefit me in my own company. And then I left. Like my husband would tell you, like when he met me, I was always in a job, then I was gone. And I think the longest one I ever stayed at was the last one I just had, but that was in real estate as well. Then I met him. We had a business meeting / date.
This is the first date?
Yep.
Really? Like a business meeting. It was an interview. We were interviewing each other
yep.
for several different roles. Ended up working out. She got me.
Yep. But it was nothing lovey-dovey about that at all. Upon meeting, I met him at a gas station. So, we exchanged business cards when we met. Yep.
No pickup lines. Just, we knew, she looked good. I looked good. We knew the physical attraction was there, but we wanted to see where each person was mentally, because again, the physical only takes you so far. After 10, 20, 30 years, those looks fade, but you want to have another, layers and foundations to your relationship.
Absolutely. And at that point in time in my life, I was literally looking for something more serious, but also someone who was like-minded. I was a heavy entrepreneur at the time. I've literally always had a business. My entire life, I became an entrepreneur at the age of 18 when I formed my first company. And when I met him, we sat down, we had a business meeting. I even offered to pick the check up.
And I said, no way. No way.
Really sat there and argued over the check.
I appreciated that. She would even offer, right? Of course, I'm not going to let a woman pay.
Yeah.
But, you don't see that too often.
Right. But I mean, everything I did was very, calculated. It was really me letting him know what type of woman I was up front. And just something as simple as the check to me was just letting him know that, one, I can carry my own weight. And then 2, you don't have to carry the load yourself with someone like me. So, it was kind of a twofold thing. After that business meeting, it was kind of business meeting / date. We both kind of knew exactly from the very beginning where each other was and where our heads were. And we knew that the physical attraction was there. Now was there as well. So.
Wait, so how old were y'all whenever y'all actually met?
So she's older than me.
Oh my God. I knew
almost
that was
2
coming.
years. So it's my sugar.
It's 1 year.
So I was like, I was 28 and she was 29. So we were in our late 20s. And we always say, like, we wish we would have met earlier, right? So that was about 10 years ago. We wish we would have met when we were in our early 20s, because we would have accomplished, we've accomplished a lot and we're still on that journey. But I think we would have accomplished a lot more faster.
You could have built a lot faster if y'all was together earlier, basically.
Absolutely.
So okay, man, this is definitely going different than how I originally thought, but we're just gonna let it rock. So, with this whole dynamic of, obviously, y'all were obviously very both. Krystal, she's clearly was very playing chess all her life, right? Very strategic, very analytical with every decision that you were making, right? So whenever y'all met, I know for a lot of guys, it can be very intimidating to kind of meet a woman that is very straightforward, and she's, a business kind of woman. Because a lot of those kind of, typically what you see, at least now, is that a lot of those kind of, women, they have to have a certain mentality in order to make things happen in business. And so it's kind of something that it's hard for them to sometimes, switch on and off if that's something that they try to do, right? In terms of relationship and then business and those kind of things. So how did you necessarily, well, for you, was it Dedric, was it something that you saw as something that you were attracted to, or was it something that you saw, okay, maybe that could be, a red flag at some point? Or I'm just, how did you perceive that initially?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some men are threatened by that, like that independent woman, who does her own thing, has her own money, don't need you, be clapping and all that. No, but she wasn't that type of woman. She was very independent. I was looking for, again, I wanted to form a power couple. So I was looking for that Michelle Obama, that Claire Huxtable. And when I met her, I was like, I found it. So, I have an ego. Right. But my ego wasn't threatened by her, because I'm like, hey, if I'm an A player and I team up with an A player, it's like D Wade and LeBron, KD and Steph, you team up, you're only going to take to the championship. So that's how I looked at it.
So then real quick, Marlon, as far as then your temperament, because I've always said the same thing for myself. Right. I want that, because like I mentioned before, I'm a, bachelor on here. So I was always said that I was looking for kind of that, same kind of woman. But what I found kind of as you date around, you meet different people, I had to kind of find someone whose temperament isn't necessarily the same as mine, in terms of I know I'm a very passionate type of person in terms of my emotions. I can get really high. I won't necessarily get low, but I can get high. And so if I'm really hot and somebody's getting really hot with me, it could be really bad. So, how, as far as your temperament, then were y'all opposite? Was she more so, is she passionate and then you were more so nonchalant, and so it could work, or are y'all both passionate? Because I don't think, for me, that couldn't work personally. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's we both have that entrepreneurial mindset. We're both very ambitious, but we're also very different in a lot of ways. So I'm left-handed, she's right-handed. I say tomato, she says tomato, right? So it's we'll look at the same thing and she'll see it from this direction, I'll see it. So it's kind of like that yin and yang where it works. Yeah. Sometimes when couples are, too similar, you clash, right? Well, we kind of have that yin and yang where it just works.
And I'm a visionary. So in our marriage, in our relationship, in our partnership, period, I'm a visionary. He's an integrator. So it prevents us from stepping on each other's toes the majority of the time.
And when we do, she'll remind me, or I remind her, like, this is my lane. Exactly. You're getting into my lane, right? It's not perfect. We're not going to get in here and be like our relationship is perfect, because it's far from it. Because we're humans, right? And we're, inherently imperfect. But, yeah. Yeah,
and we put stuff into place to kind of try and prevent that. So his area of the business, I really don't want too much to do with at all anyway. And vice versa. But the thing with us is, at the end of the day, he'll still have the final decision. But 9 times out of 10, if it has something to do with me and my area, he's always going to give me that final decision, because that's my area of expertise. That's why I'm in that position. That's why I run that part of our companies, and vice versa. But we do run everything by each other. Now, I am super, he's very even keeled, so to speak. And I wouldn't have married someone who was like me. So you're right in that aspect. I can go from 0 to 100 like that. I could never marry someone who could do that as well. I need someone who can bring me down at times.
Right.
And someone who is not meeting me where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that's him. He's very mild-mannered, very even keeled. Like I tell this one joke when we were dating, I literally only seen him lose his temper one time. And when he did, he almost took my door off my little Nissan Altima.
Hey.
He went and shut my door. And it was mainly because I was laughing.
She pushed my buttons.
And I pushed his button. And he got out my car and slammed my door. And I was like, damn, my whole car like rattled, shook. I was like, did he almost take my door off? That was the first time. It shocked me, because that was my first time ever seeing him get upset.
Yeah.
But it was a good thing for me to see as well.
Man.
See, that's...
I'm sorry, I really want to say that, because y'all really, I'm not even going to lie, y'all really remind me a lot of, like, both me and Alex's personality types. Like, Alex is definitely the one that's always on fire, and I think I'm much more like the person that's even killed, like very chill tempered. Because Alex,
we're not dating though.
No, not of course. But I think it's just because when Dedric, you were just talking about like you only got really mad one time, and I think Alex probably know what I'm referring to. Like when the one time I really got really mad, like when something he was doing, that was back in think of 8th grade.
Yeah.
So
bro. Yeah. We ain't even gonna bring that. We ain't even gonna bring
it up on the podcast. We'll talk offline about it. But I rarely ever get that mad though, and it's just like so when I do get mad, like you would know about it. But I just go ahead.
So the thing about it though is like, and this is why I always say too about, especially for young men too, it's like between the ages of really like 18 to like 24, I don't think you really know yourself enough to know the type of person that you had to be with, right? Because I didn't know my temperament until last year. I'm 24 now. I didn't learn it till last year. I didn't know what ticked me off. I had no emotional intelligence. I didn't know anything in terms of how I, controlled my emotions, the things that made me upset, how to manage my emotions, how to manage interactions with other people while I'm upset. I didn't know that stuff. And you don't know that until you've experienced a little bit of life. So it's like, that's why I don't even think between the ages of 18 and 24, you shouldn't even be dating like seriously, like honestly, especially men.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just to touch on that point, you also want to make sure that you look for a woman who understands that. Because a woman who don't understand that is going to set you both up for a recipe for disaster. So when he and I got together, and a lot of people know our story, when we got together, I knew he wasn't ready for a serious relationship. And knowing that and being smart enough to realize that, understand that, but know, hey, this is the guy that I'm going to eventually marry. I knew that from the day that I saw him at the gas station. Yeah. This is the guy I'm going to marry. Yeah. But I also understood he wasn't ready to be married. And if I pushed him, I may get what I want now, but it's going to be a recipe for disaster later. Yeah. I had to tell him, I said, listen, I need you to go off and live your life for another year. With some girls.
Intuition, the way you coming out, that's crazy.
Hey, go sow your royal oats.
Is exactly what I'm telling.
And I thought she was like testing me, right? Because you guys know it, Ramon. You know, the female will test you. They'll ask you a question, and you're supposed to respond a certain way. And sometimes if you're honest, that'll get you in trouble. I thought I was being tested or punked, and I was like, "You really want me to do that?" She was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Okay."
I said, "Listen, no, he didn't." I said,
I didn't believe you.
No, I want to be with you. I said, "Listen, if it's meant to be, it'll be." I said, "But right now, you're not ready."
How did you know he wasn't ready?
Because I knew.
I wasn't. I mean, I was 28, but I was in that 24-year-old mindset. I still want to party. I still want to travel and just be out there, have fun, right? Because I was,
Absolutely.
When we first met, she was like, "When do you want to get married?" I was like, "I'll probably get married when I'm like 55, 60.
Yep.
When I get tired of, running around and being a bachelor."
At that interview, she figured that out.
She didn't argue with me.
Said,
right? Most females would be like, "Oh, well, why don't you get married when you're younger? That's too old." She just said, "Okay."
Oh, okay.
She knew she had different plans. She didn't even fight me on it, right?
Nope.
Why you got married at 33?
I told them a man is going to settle down only when he's ready to settle. And you can't push him, but a man is also going to get married to the woman that he wants to get married to. So I can say, hey, he can say, "Oh, I'm not going to get married till I'm 50." And I can say, oh, but I know if he meets that right woman in 2 years, he's getting married in 2 years.
Yeah.
So for women to be like, get all up in arms, they're like, no, oh my God, then I can't be with you.
So most women don't think how my wife thinks. I always like that 1/10 of 1%. She's a rare unicorn as far as her mentality, because she thinks a lot like a male mentality. She doesn't have, not trying to be stereotypical, but she doesn't have the typical female mentality when it comes to a lot of things.
Yeah, but I needed him to go out. I needed him to sleep with some females. I needed him to travel. I needed him to party. I needed him to get a lot of stuff out his system that I knew wasn't out yet. But I knew once he did get it out of his system, and when he comes back around, he's going to be ready. So
why did you decide to wait for him then? Because a lot of women will look at that and say, "No, I don't have time to do that. I'm trying to wait."
I didn't say I waited.
So she sent me off to do my thing, and she went and she got in a relationship with someone else.
I sure did. I didn't say I waited.
She wasn't waiting around.
Really?
So I went and did my thing, and like a year later, I'm like, okay, I'm tired of playing the field. I'm ready to, settle down.
But you knew though that he was the guy for you though. So
Absolutely.
So you wanted to find somebody to play around with until he was ready, basically.
Basically.
And that takes a lot. I mean, most people don't have the intestinal fortitude to do that because they're like, well, what if this person doesn't come back to me?
Right.
That's the fear.
But see, I tell people what's ordained for you will be for you. Ooh. But at the same time, I didn't put my life on hold because anything can happen. My only thing to him was when you come back around, and this was my own preference. It's not for anyone else because, I was raised by a single parent my entire life. So I just told him, when you come back, you cannot come back with any children. So make sure you strap up and be careful. That was my only one request. That was it. That was my only condition to him is you cannot come back and have children. And of course, no STDs. So when we got back together, he had to take an STD test and everything.
Oh, wow.
But other than that, I told him, come back in a year and we'll revisit this. And when he came back and I saw that he was serious.
But she didn't tell you the other part where she ghosted me. When I came back, she ghosted me. So I was trying to get in touch with her. She wouldn't pick up the phone. I'm trying to come see her. She's not answering the door.
At that point, you think that you failed the test or something, I'm sure. Like, I knew she was testing me and now she didn't ghosted me.
Trying to come back early. That's why.
Oh, okay.
I told him take a whole year. He was trying to come back.
Like 9 months, 8 months.
6 months, then 7 months, then 8 months, then 9 months.
And she was nowhere to be found. She was ghosting me. Like, I literally went to her house. I see her car outside. I'm knocking on the door. She ain't coming. I'm like, I know she's in there. And it's like, I'm not used to doing crazy stuff like this. I'm like, I'm listening at the door to see a spider. I'm like, I must really be in love with this woman because I've never done anything like this in my life.
Never. He had girls doing that to him. Like, yeah. But I was serious when I said, listen, I just need you to live your life first before you get into something as serious as me. Because I knew when you got with me, we were going to skyrocket from there.
Yeah.
Man.
All gas, no brakes at that point.
I think my lesson I took away from all of that is that both of y'all had to be very secure in yourselves. So for you, Krystal, I think you were very secure in like, I know what I want. I know you're not ready, and I'm not going to force you to be ready because I know for a fact that this is not going to work out at this very exact moment. So I'm secure enough to say, you go do you, and you better, and after that 1 year, not a second sooner, after that 1 year, we'll make it work because I know where we can go with this. And then Dedric, for you, you have to be very secure in yourself because like Alex mentioned earlier, a lot of guys are intimidated by that alpha female mentality, but you're like, I know my value, I know what I bring to the table, and she brings an equal amount to the table, and we can really make something great out of this. So props to both of y'all big time for that. And I really want to start getting into like the business aspect of it because like you mentioned from the very beginning, you had a business meeting as a first date, and I think it's very well, a lot of people will be questioning how easy is it to bridge that gap between both business and your personal relationship when there's so much business going on, like y'all are in the process of building something great?
I think it's very easy if you are dating with a purpose, right? So I tell people, a lot of people who come up to us at conferences and they're like, hey, I can't seem to get my husband involved, or I can't seem to get my wife involved. And I ask them, did you have this conversation with them when you were just dating, right? And they was, oh, well, no, because when we were dating, we were both, employees, we worked for companies. And then I tell them, okay, did you never want or have dreams to become an entrepreneur? Oh, yes, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I said, okay, well, then that's a conversation that you should have had immediately upon dating, because it's hard for a W-2 mindset to understand the mindset of an entrepreneur.
It's a fact.
And that's what a lot of people don't take into account is they haven't changed, you have. So you can't fault them if they're like, hey, listen, down the line, hey, I'm not signing up for you not to work. And then all the bills fall on me while you're chasing this dream of being an entrepreneur. So for us, we needed to get that out the way first. That was most important to me because I knew I was leaving that state. I knew I needed someone who also had an entrepreneur mindset because that's the only person who's going to understand me and what I'm trying to do in life and where I'm trying to go in life. So when I met him and I said, and he had like 3 different side hustles at the time when I met him, as well as a W-2 job. I said, okay, this is someone who's going to always understand me, who's going to support me, but also challenge me more importantly. So to me, it really went hand in hand. Now, while we're together now, are the lines blurred? Of course, because we work together all day and we're married. So
and we have kids.
So those things run together a lot of times where, we'll be in the bed talking about a deal.
Yeah.
Close or was supposed to close.
Turn it off. Like, hold on, time out. We're laying in the bed right now. Right. That's not the time and place. She'll be like, did you close that deal?
Sounds like a dream.
Right. But if you love what you're doing, like I love when he says, hey, I got another one. Like that's music to my ears because I love hearing that. I love hearing him close deals. I love when he says, hey, that marketing you did was amazing. Like we've gotten this many deals off that and what have you. Like that's our love language together. Is that.
And that's really what we wanted too.
Yep.
My vision of getting married and building a family is I didn't want my wife working for someone else. I didn't want to only see her, in the morning before she goes to work and I go off to my job and then 6 o'clock when she gets home.
Yeah.
That's no fun to me. I didn't want her working for another man, frankly.
Yep.
I wanted to build a family enterprise where we're working together and building something together.
No, that's real. And I told somebody that the other day. They looked at me like I was crazy. I said, I don't want my future wife having to work for another man. So I'm glad to hear, that's actually some people actually saying. Because to me, I think, especially, with the dynamics of y'all relationship, it seems like y'all, a lot of the stuff kind of flows in between, or in terms of like the mentality, right? So I'm sure a lot of the ways that y'all handle stuff in business is similar to how y'all handle stuff in relationships, right? In terms of like, so when an issue comes up in business, is it handled the same way as if an issue came up in a relationship in terms of, some, lack of communication or something? Is that like approach the same way? Or is it a different approach because it's separate in business?
It's typically a different approach for us, kind of. So like business is different because if anything comes up in one of our areas, that person typically handles it, right? Yeah. So if something comes up in marketing, I'll handle it. If it's something that I really can't handle, then I'll bring it to him. If something happens in our property management business, then if it's something I handle, I just handle it. He'll never hear about it. He only hears about stuff that I absolutely need to bring to his attention, and vice versa. That way we don't step on each other's toes, and then he don't put more on me than I need, and I don't put more on him than he needs. And he's used to micromanaging, so I had to get him out of that mindset in the business where he has to have his hands in everything that everyone is doing. No, that's what we're paying people to do. As far as our relationship is different because it's personal. So for us, it's typically if an issue comes up, but we also are advocates for counseling. So we've been in counseling since we were dating. Like I told him 2 months in. Couples counseling. Like 2 months in dating, I said, okay, we're going to counseling. He was like, no, I'm not going.
Right? Because, in our community, counseling is taboo. For sure. Right? You go sitting on the couch with talking to some random person about your problems. That's seen as a sign of weakness and it's taboo. But she had to help me get out of that mindset. Like, first of all, she was like, it's not an option. Right? If you want to be with me, we have to go to counseling because neither one of us saw it done right. Right. I grew up raised by a single mom. She was raised by a single mom. So we never saw a healthy, functioning marriage with a husband and wife interacting together. So we needed help. And, definitely going to counseling at the beginning of my relationship, it helped immensely.
Absolutely. And more so to help us communicate because we'd never seen a couple communicate other than the Cosby Show, Family Matters. I love them shows because that introduced me to the family unit, really. But we're not them, right? So I told them, we have to learn to communicate because that's what a marriage is built off of. So we've had counseling throughout the duration of our dating and our marriage. We're still in counseling. And we tell people it's more like look at it as preventative maintenance, right? Yeah. Yes. In case something does come up. So it really just makes us make sure we continue to communicate with each other. And it's kind of like the same thing. So if something happens with the kids, he don't really hear about it unless it's something I got to bring to his attention. I try to keep a lot of little stuff off his plate because he got so much other stuff going on as well. We both are running different areas of the company, but I don't want to, if it's just stuff that I can handle, I make sure I take care of it 9 times out of 10.
So then I have a question as far as the aspect of like when it comes to like household things, right? Because obviously Dedric, he found you in a role of like where you are, Krystal, how you are today is how he kind of found you, right? In terms of the way, like your mentality, he didn't find you in a different role, and in terms of like, oh, maybe you were a housewife or something like that, which if that's what some people want, that's fine, but he didn't find you in that role. So now how do y'all kind of like approach like that kind of stuff in terms of like household duties and those kind of things? Because for a lot of people, I feel like I think that, if you find someone in a certain role, then you can't expect them to, be in a different role 10, 20 years down the road. So you have to, especially as a man, you have to allow your woman to actually flourish in whatever role you found her in or whatever role she's supposed to be in. So whether that's the businesswoman like, Krystal is, or it's a housewife or, whatever the case may be, a trophy wife, whatever you want to call it, you have to allow her to flourish in that role by doing what you have to do. So how do y'all manage like that aspect of like, because obviously, household duties and those kind of things have to get done. How do y'all manage that?
How we manage it is we basically make sure that no one thing is put on one person, right? Because in the beginning, we learned that at the end of the day, we are carrying this load. So when I was working and he was working both W-2 jobs, we were both working W-2 jobs. We both had another business. So we had bought franchises. We both had roles in those businesses. And then we have kids and then we have home, right? So no one person is doing more than the other. And I had to learn how to ask for help, which is something that I wasn't raised to do because my mother is super alpha, super strong, and she never had anyone there that she could ask for help from, right? So I didn't see that. And when I married him, when we first had our first son, he used to always tell me, like, you're not a single parent. You're not a single parent. And I know it's simple and it's crazy, but I completely would forget that I'm not a single parent. And I would take everything on my back. Like, I didn't realize my husband didn't change diapers for our first son until we had my second one. And
didn't change all the diapers. Once she realized
when I realized
because she didn't want me changing diapers. You might mess something up. You might break something.
Right. And I never let him do stuff. Like, I didn't let him do the laundry because I wanted it done my way. Dishes, I wanted to make sure they were cleaned the right way. Like, and then I realized I was getting burnt out. Right. So then I said, okay, this ain't gonna work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some balance in this household.
Yeah, it was unbalanced
because the woman holds the harmony in the home. And if I'm unhappy, the whole house feels it when I'm off and I'm not even keeled. So now it's more so, okay, we have 2 boys. We have an entire home. I started to house hack and basically take out any and everything that wasn't productive for me to be doing, and I outsourced it, right? And hired people to do it. Laundry, cleaning, everything.
Run little
errands, picking the kids up, tutoring, everything I outsource except for like cooking because I like doing that. It kind of gives me a little peace of mind. But other than that, I kind of outsource, and then he and I divvied up stuff that we were going to do in-house. And it would be like, okay, listen, like now he got to take care of the dishes. If it's a day that our cleaners aren't there, I'll take care of, laundry, certain things like that. We make sure it's balanced in our home.
And what I have to learn is that it's a team effort, right? So she can't be the superstar businesswoman and still have to do all the house, superstar housewife duties. That's too much for one person. Yeah. So I have to learn that, hey, I got to help her with a lot of this household stuff because we are a team. So she's not carrying more than she can bear.
That's always a struggle I have too, because I always say I want to, find that kind of woman that's the business kind of woman. But at the same time, I think of like I said, I can't expect her to be, in a housewife kind of role. If I want a businesswoman, I can't expect her to be a housewife too.
Right. So, those are both full-time jobs. But being a housewife and a mother is a full-time job alone.
Absolutely.
Full stop. Then the businesswoman part,
Yeah. So I don't know.
It's not easy to balance.
No, but I think one thing that solves it for both of y'all quite a bit is, for one, the counseling that y'all did. So now y'all were able to spot out the foundational or root problem in both of y'all's lives. So I know y'all kept referencing what you grew up seeing. Y'all grew up seeing single family households. Krystal, you grew up seeing your mom being an alpha female. So now you inherit some of those things and you carry that on to your personal relationship and in business. And so now you have identified these things, and then the second thing is communication. I think that's been so big with y'all. Once you're clear on what each other need to be doing, that really allows y'all to not have so many roadblocks, because now we're clearly communicating the expectations out of each person. And I think that's very helpful in both business and relationships. And a lot of people could definitely take something out of that. But
absolutely, clearly defined roles.
Yes, exactly. And now I definitely want to just get into business now. So now you mentioned that you got into a franchise, right? I'm guessing this is just before real estate.
Yes.
Yeah. Before real estate, again, I was doing software sales, high level enterprise software sales. She was working as a manager of a real estate appraisal company. But again, we both were like, how do we get out of this? Because we don't want to be working in this corporate environment for the next 10, 20 years. So we're like, what about franchises? So we identified a few franchises that we could buy and then try to exit our corporate career. So we bought an animal scooter franchise. These are these little battery operated scooters that ride around shopping malls. Little kids can ride them. They have little animal furs on them. So we bought one of those. I actually cashed out my 401k from corporate America. It was like $50,000 to buy that franchise because no bank would lend us the money because it wasn't a traditional business, right? We bought it. It was 2 locations, one in Charlotte, one in Greensboro, North Carolina. We expanded to a 3rd location. Again, we still kept our jobs because, again, it didn't immediately replace our income, but that was something we did before real estate. And then we ran that for a couple of years, grew it, and then we sold it for double what we invested in it. And we took that money and then we put it into getting into real estate.
So what made y'all delay real estate instead of just going straight into real estate? Because actually, by the way, I'm a big advocate of that formula in terms of, because I think that's the formula to wealth is business or 9-to-5 income to a business to real estate, right? Because 9-to-5 could only earn you so much money. A business you can 10x your 9-to-5 income with that. But I'm just curious because y'all are obviously big on real estate, and that is y'all's business now. Real estate is your business now. So why did y'all go the franchise route first before getting into real estate?
Well, the first business that we actually started together, which was we started 2 months dating, was Airbnb.
Related. Yeah, it was Airbnb. In 2012, we started Airbnb together. We just started dating. She was always at my house that I own. I bought my first piece of real estate in 2007. I house hacked a triplex in Boston. So I already had a piece of real estate that I still own to this day. Again, she was always at my house. She had an apartment that was in a really prime area. And I was like, hey, I figured out a way we can make some money off your apartment. And she was like, say no more. We can make money on it. Let's do it. She didn't even need a business plan or nothing. And we started renting her house out on Airbnb. Her rent was like $700 a month. That shows you how long ago it was. Right. And we were making like $2,000-3,000 a month renting out her empty apartment.
Wow.
So yeah.
So then, okay, because then I want to get into like the real estate stuff because, like you said, I mean, you mentioned that the banks wouldn't even loan on a scooter business, but I think it's always interesting just how, this like approaching that with real estate, right? Because I always look at real estate as like, regardless if you're buying a single family house, a duplex or triplex, or a 30 or 300 unit apartment building, you're buying a business still. And I think, that's the only business in the world that you can go to a bank, have no experience, and get a loan for 96.5%, leverage, 80% leverage, 75% leverage, all those kind of things. So it's like, like you said, I mean, they weren't going to loan on the scooter business. So then whenever y'all got into real estate, what was y'all strategy as far as like getting properties? And then could y'all also disclose, not to count your pockets too much, but how many units and, deals y'all have done to this day as far as real estate?
Yeah, our strategy from the beginning was always buy and hold. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad about 20 years ago, and it was like, I need to get in that B, business and investor quadrant. We need to buy rentals. And I'm not talking about 5, 10 rentals. I'm talking about we want to own thousands of them because we want that type of mailbox money where we never have to work. We have money chasing us. So that was always the plan. Of course, when we first got in there, we didn't have the cash to just go buy a rental property with cash, right? But we did have jobs and we had good credit. So we started building our portfolio while we still had, W-2 jobs. We go to the bank and say, hey, we've identified a property, we want to buy it. Okay, give us, 10% down, 20% down. So we built up our portfolio initially getting bank financing while we had jobs, right? Because banks love stable salary. They'll lend to you faster than if you're an entrepreneur, right? Trying to figure things out. So after about a year in the business, we were able to fire her boss. So she quit corporate America. We were making enough from wholesaling was our initial strategy. So how are we going to build up capital to buy more rental properties?
Yeah.
We didn't really want to do fix and flip, so we found wholesaling. So we started wholesaling, and we would take the majority of our wholesale profits and either reinvest it into marketing to do more wholesale deals, and we take those profits to buy rental properties. So right now we have over 20 rental properties in our portfolios, probably close to like $2.5-3 million, worth of our portfolio. So yeah.
And that method that you use with like going from wholesaling to rental properties, like a lot of people want to do that route, but a lot of people also are not diligent enough in order to like take it on and then like make it profitable to where y'all are with 20 rental properties today. So like, what was that process like? Because I'm telling you, like I've seen so many people that come to me say, hey, I don't have a lot of money, but I'm looking to get into real estate. Should I start wholesaling? And a lot of people think that's the easiest or go-to route, but that takes a lot of groundwork and like a lot of marketing, directing between sellers and buyers. That's like a full-time job. So,
it's a job.
And that's probably more than full-time, but that takes a lot of work. So like, what makes separate a job from everybody else that's all saying the same concept, go from wholesale to rental properties?
I think mainly our goal from the very beginning was different. So most people just say, hey, I want to wholesale, right? Ours was never to wholesale. Ours was to buy and hold. And wholesaling just became a means to that, right?
Yeah.
So our goal was, we said, hey, we want to build up a huge rental portfolio. How do we do that? My husband's like, hey, listen, I heard about this thing called wholesaling. I said, okay. He had been talking about it forever and ever and ever. And then finally, I was just like, listen, we're going to do the shit. What's the information? I started doing my research, and we got into really getting a lot of mentorship and a lot of coaching.
Paying for the mentors.
And we did that for a year before we ever closed a deal, and we had spent over $100,000 in just coaching and mentorships and masterminds
over time, right? We didn't have $100,000 when we first started on that, but we hired a coach. We found out, hey, you got to do cold calling on a massive scale to generate leads to off-market wholesale deals. So we hired some guys. We paid them like $5,000 to teach us how to do cold, right? We hired another guy to teach us how to do direct mail. Like, we hired these experts who were experts in the niche that we needed to learn, and that's kind of how we. And again, if we get a $10,000, $20,000 wholesale check, we wouldn't go buy a watch. We wouldn't go buy a car, which most people, I understand. Like, I grew up not having a lot of money, so I understand the impulse to do that. We would take that money and put it right back into the business. All right, we're going to buy a duplex. Okay, we're going to take down this next deal. We're not going to wholesale. We're going to buy it ourselves and get bank financing.
And that's essentially what y'all did, was y'all were working backwards from y'all's long-term goal. And that's what, we always tell people to do is too. It's like, you got to figure out what your long-term goal is and work backwards from that, right? So I always say, look, my goal in just real estate alone, aside from my other businesses, is to have $10,000 a month in cash flow. If I want $10,000 a month in cash flow, okay, I know generally I can get $150 to $200 per month in cash flow after all expenses per door, per unit. So I said, okay, cool. I need 50 units. How can I get 50 units? Maybe I can go get 50 houses. Oh, I don't want to get 50 houses. Maybe I can get a 50 unit apartment complex. Okay, cool. How can I get a 50 unit apartment complex? Oh, I might need $1 million to put down. How can I get $1 million? Okay, maybe I can flip 10 houses and get 100,000 on each. And so you just keep working backwards till you get to that. And that's what essentially I see that y'all did. And y'all broke it down all the way to the point of like, okay, we need to get coaching. We need to learn. We need mentorship. That's what we need. Because you can figure out what you need to be doing today so that you can always be taking action, which is, I think, what y'all did brilliantly, which has kind of obviously got y'all to where y'all are today as well.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And it shortened our learning curve. That's what I was gonna say. In the process. Like, that's really what did it for us. Like, and we actually just sold a ton of properties just because.
Because the market is so hot. Right. We would have a lot more rentals, but we've sold a bunch in the last 6 to 12 months.
And that's mainly because it helps us with our long-term goal. We are now about to break ground on development and developing some small multifamilies.
Buying a mobile home park.
Couple mobile home parks. So it's getting us to our end goal even faster. So literally all of that coaching, and people are here like, oh my God, you spent what? And the number has went way beyond 100,000 now. But we do that because we're not going to spend 3, 4, 5 months trying to learn anything anymore. Our time is too valuable for that at this point. Yeah. We need to hire an expert in that field and pay them to teach us what they know about it. So now, instead of us taking it 6 months, it's taking 6 days for us to get this information. And I think that's what people have to look at it. You can go to college for 4 years and spend all this time and come out knowing what, like we did. And no one's, a majority of people aren't
business, entrepreneurship.
Right. You're not teach you how to work utilizing that degree
in college. Nothing wrong with someone. And one thing I want to add, Alex, is we found the same thing with single family rentals can be great. But what we found is that we were maybe making $200 a month, $300 a month cash flow. We were like, damn, we ain't get a lot of single family rentals to hit that $10,000 a month cash flow after all expenses. So what we did is we pivoted to converting a lot of our single family rentals into short-term rentals. Everybody's heard of Airbnb. If you haven't, you probably living under a rock. Yeah. So now the single family rentals that were making $300 a month after all expenses profit are now making $1,500 to $2,000 a month off of one single family, right? So that's cash flowing like a 10-unit apartment building. Yeah. So that's, little small tweaks like that. I would encourage everyone to look into Airbnb, renting out your houses on a short-term rental basis.
And be strategic when purchasing houses. Don't just buy just to say, oh, I own 2 or 3 rentals. I own 4 or 5 rentals. Yeah. Very strategic, even with our single-family homes, where they have to be able to either be short-term rentals, We have to be able to sell them for top dollar. What's the other one that it has to be for? It has to be an exit strategy. We have to use, it has to be in a certain neighborhood, but we have to be able to either Airbnb it. If we come a time where we want to sell it for top dollar, we can sell it for top dollar, or rent it for a top market. So we're not trying to pull in $100.
And that's the beauty of wholesaling. Is wholesaling, you learn how to source deals at a discounted price. So we never pay retail for a house. We're always buying a house at 60 cents on the dollar or less.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked about that part of the story is just as far as like y'all getting y'all education is the fact that y'all were on the same page early on about we don't know exactly what we need to do. So what do we need to do in order to figure out the information? We'll both invest our money in order to get it. And I think that's like a big barrier for a lot of people. Like it may be the male or the female that is saying that they want to invest, and the other person is like, oh no, we're not going to spend money on something like that. Like let's search YouTube, let's search Google, let's try it out ourselves. And like you said, you're either going to trade in your time or you're going to trade in your money, because one of the other is going to get done. So what's more valuable to you? And if both of y'all value the same thing, like we both value our time more, then it's a no-brainer to say let's spend the money in order to get the education, and let's just skyrocket our business as a result of getting the right information early on. And
exactly.
And now you talking about like the.
And what I just wanted to add, what I found is that when you invest in the education, again, I'm usually the one to be like, damn, we gotta spend $5,000 on this mentor or this coach or $10,000.
Yep.
But when we invest in it, it typically pays off 10 to 20 times whatever we spent. We make back from what we learned.
Yeah.
I think that comes from experience of actually investing in a course or investing in some type of program and then implementing the strategies that are in that program immediately. Because then you see a return and you're like, man, that was well worth it. I spent $5,000 and I just did a wholesale deal and made $10,000, made $20,000. It's not, so now you're implementing the strategies that they taught you, and you are just getting your investment back very quickly. Most people don't see it like that because they haven't invested that money and then got a return by implementing the strategies before.
You got to take action.
That's exactly.
Right? A lot of times buy stuff and we'll put it on the shelf.
Exactly.
Right. And it can't do you any good on the shelf. So we were at the point where we had spent so much, and a lot of times we didn't have the cash. So we would literally put it on a credit card. So we put it on a personal credit card or on a business credit card. And she knows I'm like a Nazi with my credit. I'm very protective. That's why I have an 800 plus credit score. So I'm like, look, we spent $10,000 on this investment with our credit. This can't not work, right? That's a double negative. It's got to work because I got to pay off this credit card. We ain't about to ruin my credit, so it has to work.
And that's a product of taking action. Once you take action, like spend that money, you're gonna be much more intentional about what you do after the fact. Because I'm not spending that money just for it to go down the drain. I'm not putting this on the wall or on a bookshelf to collect dust. We're implementing this stuff right now as soon as we're done.
And that's why people should spend money. Like I think you should. Spend money because it's going to force you into action. Because if let's just say someone had a course and they gave it to you, you're going to devalue it because you didn't have to put any skin in the game. Look, money speaks. It's going to make you move. So people that are listening, that's what I want them to take away from that is don't be afraid to put your money up for education. I mean, like you said, you spend all that money in school, spend it on something that can get you a return, make you money for the rest of your life.
Another thing I wanted to get into, so for the people that's listening that want to become wholesalers, I know it's very difficult to continuously, for one, find motivated sellers and market to them, because I know for a fact that it takes different strategies, driving for dollars, direct mail, SMS marketing, bandit signs, all of that stuff is required in order to find motivated sellers. And then more than likely, you're not going to only contact them one time and then they're going to respond and say, oh yeah, let's do a deal. You can get it for 60 cents on the dollar for sure. Like it doesn't usually work like that. So what is y'all strategy and why is it, and what makes it different from the average person?
I think what our strategy is, as far as marketing, is kind of like we joke around the office and stuff. It's called no lead left behind, right? So I'm literally still marketing to lists that we pulled when we started our business 3-4 years ago. Those same exact lists. Yeah. And just to put in perspective, so at the end of the year, I took the list that we've been using for the past 2 or 3 years, from the very first list that we have exhausted. We've hit them with cold calling, text messaging, ringless voicemail, direct mail, all of these lists. And I put them back through with our cold callers. And I said, hey, I'm not pulling anything new. I'm not creating any new lists. Go through these lists and see what we can find for the end of the year. And we still squeeze out 130K
profits out of it.
Leads.
Wow.
These lists that we've just been marketing, we've hit with every area. So one of the things with us is I learned early on that people respond to different marketing methods. Mm-hmm. They respond with what they're comfortable with. So these same people have been hit with direct mail, right? They've been hit with cold calling and ringless voicemail. They chose not to respond that way.
Or maybe the timing wasn't right.
Or the timing wasn't right. But they chose to respond the way they wanted to respond. So there's lists that we hit with text messaging that we actually went through all of our lists that we've been marketing to. And text messaging was kind of the last marketing method we tried. That was successful for us. So we had tried it with different providers and they were just horrible. And then REI Rail came out with their text messaging. So I started using that. It was freaking phenomenal. And these same leads that have been done, they've been hit with everything but text messaging. We got probably about 200 leads off of these lists. And these same people didn't respond any other way but to text messaging. That was their chosen method of communication. And I tell my husband and I'll tell our cold callers and acquisitions guys, hey, listen, if this is what they're comfortable with, stick with this until they tell you otherwise. So don't text them and then get so excited you just pick the phone up and call them because they're not gonna answer, which 90% of the time they don't answer. They want to text. So keep it with texting until they say, hey, what's a good time to talk? Then you say, okay, my husband has closed deals through email only, never talking to the person, nothing but email threads going back and forth, text messaging, closed deals with nothing but text messaging, never having heard the seller's voice because they didn't want to talk under any circumstances. They got their wire transfer, we got ours, and that was it for them. So just basically knowing that people are going to respond the way they want to respond, making sure you really cover all bases, not in the beginning though. So I tell people, don't let people sell you on 10 different softwares. Find one, master that, and then add something else. I tell people Driving for Dollars is the easiest to get into, but also one of the most effective. Your Driving for Dollars list is gold. That's the one list that no other investor is going to have.
Right, don't have access to that on like some random site. Like
there you go. Our Driving for Dollars list is in steady rotation. It never, ever are we not hitting that list. We continuously keep hitting it until they say, take us off your list, or no, I'm not interested in selling. Or they sell it to us. That's the only way you're going to get off that Driving for Dollars list. And that's always followed up with cold calling. Those two to me go hand in hand. But before you get into like ringless voicemail, things of that nature, make sure that you've mastered another marketing method first.
I think that's such a huge gem because you're pretty much saying who is my target audience, first of all. Once you know your target audience and what they respond to, you need to focus on that because most people, like you said, they're going to get excited. Hey, I saw you were interested in that deal. You're not going to even get the answer to the phone call because they're not interested in texting. They're interested in they're not interested in calling. They're interested in text messaging. They're interested in emails. They may write letters, whatever it takes. That's how they want to be communicated with. I think that's very big because now you know who you're just pretty much catering to your target audience. And I was just curious, honestly.
Well, hold on. I wanted to touch on that too because I really like the aspect of the no lead left behind too because it's kind of like it's like eating a chicken wing and you leave some of the chicken on the bone too because it's like there's so much gold in that because they say it's like someone's probably not going to sell to you until they've seen you at least a few times. Definitely, it's very rare. The first time they see or come in contact with you is going to be a hit.
Right.
And so that getting to continue to attack them gives you a lot more opportunities because and if you it's like if you did it once too and then you stop because they weren't interested. Now someone else is going to follow up behind you and take that lead because now Dedric was saying timing is a factor as well. So you sent it and it wasn't the right time, but had you stayed consistent for a few more months or weeks, you could have caught them in the right time. Now someone else came behind you after you already primed their mind up to the fact of to the idea of selling their home. Now they're like, oh yeah, I'm good. So
yeah, it's something like 90% of sales are made after like the 5th attempt or the 5th time you ask for the order. So what do most people do? They'll call the seller one time. The seller said, no, I'm not interested. Off the list. Never call them again. Right? Where, statistics show in direct mail, a person has to see your mailer or your postcard 6 to 8 times before it even like really registered, because we're constantly bombarded by so much marketing. After 6 to 8 times of seeing your message, then it's going to resonate with them. Right? They may call you before, but statistically, you got to touch people multiple times. But 99% of investors, especially newbies, they'll call 100 people, they'll mail 200 people, they won't get any response, or they'll get very little response, and they'll get discouraged and give up. You got to keep going. You got to reach out to thousands of people, right, to find deals, especially on a wholesale deal, especially now in 2021, where the market is so hot all around the country. It's so competitive being a seller's market.
And that's why, personally, I always just say, look, if you're trying to get into real estate and, it's nothing wrong with using wholesalers, because these people are putting in a lot of effort to find leads and deals that I personally don't want to go do.
Yeah. If you really want to get into real estate, you want to buy rental, don't become a wholesaler. Find out who the wholesalers are in the neighborhoods you want to buy in, and you buy the property from them. They've done all the hard work of hunting down the deals.
Yeah. And they're going to take their fee, deservingly so. But it's essentially like you're paying them for that lead. That's essentially what it is. So that's how you got to switch your mindset. Because personally, I
think we should be good to go now.
All right, cool. So then to wrap up the podcast, what we want to do briefly then is just get into our Fast 5 segment, which is where we ask you 5 questions and you answer them in 10 seconds or less. So I guess we'll do 20 seconds since y'all. So I'll take the first question and then Marlon will take the next one. We'll alternate. So first question, what does success mean to y'all?
Freedom.
Owning your own time.
Very simple. Okay, cool. Question number 2, what's your favorite money or business book?
Never Split the Difference.
Hey.
Book on negotiations.
I would say the one that I'm listening to right now. One that I'm reading now that I actually love is The Perfect Week Formula.
Who's that by?
Craig Ballantyne.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to look into that one. So then the third question is, would y'all rather have $1,000 a week for life or $1 million today, and why?
$1,000 a week for life in me, because cash flow. I'd rather something consistent. I can make $1 million, not a lot of time, but I want that consistent income coming in.
Mine would be $1 million. See, it doesn't surprise me that he and I we think so opposite. Mine would be $1 million today, because we can take that money today and decide how we want to invest it to double it and triple it.
Yeah.
So.
Tomato.
Right.
I love it. All right, question number 4. If you could go back and change anything about your journey, what would it be?
For me, it would have been we started real estate the day we had met each other.
2009, when we would have started doing what we're doing now.
Started doing it.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
2009, man. I wish I started at that time too. I was 13. Cool. So that last question, then, where can people find out more about y'all?
So all things Be Polite. On Instagram, Be Polite Properties. YouTube, we share a ton of gems on our YouTube videos at Be Polite Properties. Facebook under Dedric Polite or Krystal Polite. We also do have a program where we teach people our most effective marketing method, which has been Driving for Dollars. So if they go to drivingfordollarscourse.com, we can put that in the show notes, drivingfordollarscourse.com.
Cool. And real quick, where did that name Be Polite come? Because I know the last name is Polite, but what about the B? Like, what is that about?
Me.
She's the visionary. She came up with it.
Yep. Yeah, so we were literally trying to think of a name for our company, for our franchise, actually, before real estate. And we were coming up with a million things. And I literally said, you know what? I'll pray about it. And I went to sleep. I'll never forget. And I woke up and I told my husband, I said, be polite. And he was like, okay. No idea what I was talking about. I said, that's it. It's be polite. That's what God gave me. It's be polite. And he's like, that could work. I like that. And I said, it really just sums up us as well as how I want to conduct ourselves in business and just in life. That's why our motto is, it costs nothing to be polite, because I'm really big on customer service and just being able to make sure you handle and treat people the way, honestly, you would want to be treated. Mm-hmm. So that's why that's how it really became, Be Polite. Our first company was Be Polite Inc. And then the properties and the property management and preservation and all the other companies followed.
Nice. I love it. Shout out to the visionary. For sure. So this was a dope episode. We got into a lot of stuff. I think this was a very diverse episode. We talked about relationships, we talked about the real estate, we talked about business and relationships, we talked about everything. So we appreciate y'all coming on here, man. This was dope. Definitely getting to get that perspective of a couple in business. And I know y'all call them co-preneurs. So I love that term too, because I think like Napoleon Hill says, one mind you could do a lot, but with two minds you could do a lot, more. So I love it. We appreciate y'all coming on here, though. This has been super dope.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today. And if you did, we'd appreciate it if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more info about us on Twitter at The Monopolizers or on Instagram at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged, so check that out. And be sure to share those posts. But until then, we're out of here.